Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another chapter of Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas. I do hope you're enjoying the series so far. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe. We'll be picking up on channel chapter 9, 358 days until Halloween. The silver moon was high in the darkness. An owl hooted. Every resident of Halloween Town was tucked into bed. Sweet nightmares haunted their slumber. Every light switched off except for the blazing bulb in the turret window of Jack Skellington's spindly house. Jack sat upright in his creaky, rotted iron bed with crimson-eyed gargoyles perched on the bedpost as he read. Huh, sounds familiar. A fire crackled in the hearth nearby. A scraggly green evergreen tree hung with a string of oh, with a string of lights, and a few colored balls loomed over the bed. Jack had perched high and low in pumpkin and okay. Jack had searched high and low in the pumpkin patch for a fat, full evergreen like the ones that could be found in the every corner of Christmas Town. But like most of Halloween Town's vegetation, the trees there were anemic and wan. Jack supposed the ever-present fog obstructed the sun had something to do with it, and perhaps the acid rain. Not far away, Zero slumbered contentedly in his dog bed, clutching an oversized candy cane in his ghostly jaw. For the better part of a week, ever since his Halloween Town meeting, Jack had placed the cold floor of his tattered, turreted room, trying to get to the bottom of what made Christmas so magical, so he could adequately convey that feeling to his fellow citizens. His walls reeked of burnt gingerbread. His attempts at baking cookies hadn't gone well. In fact, none of his attempts to recreate Christmas cheer had success. After his baking disaster, he visited Halloween Town's library, where ghostly librarians haunted the stocks, helped him hunt down every source on Christmas he could lay his bones on. He found a guidebook to something called Yuletide Tales from the Elvish Workshop, a fat history book of bows, and a bizarre account of a red-nosed reindeer. Wonder who that could be. The nose wasn't even blood. It was simply red. Now, as the fire crackled, Jack sighed and sat down a worn copy of A Christmas Carol. The book had seemed promising at first. There were plenty of ghosts and rattling chains to entice the townsfolk's interest, but ultimately Mr. Dickens' story didn't unlock the mystery of Christmas. It ended with Mr. Scrooge, the only interesting fellow in the story, giving away his life savings to a dull, do-gooder employee. What a terrible message. Jack slammed the book closed and let his gaze wander around the Christmas trinkets he had brought back with him in the snowmobile. How do I capture holiday magic like snow in a snow globe? He wondered. The evergreens, garlands had sprung up around his bedroom, offered no answers. Neither did the black widow spider who lived in his chimney and had spun a string of Christmas lights into a colorful web. There's got to be a logical way to explain this Christmas thing, Jack mused. The perplexity? Hang on. Precariously balanced stacks of books from the library was a dead end, but then he recalled a book one of the townsfolks, the ragdoll named Sally, had once given him on behalf of Dr. Finkelstein. The book was titled The Scientific Method. Jack grabbed the book and flipped to the first page. Curious, the smell of oleander and worms weren't wafted up from the crisp page, summoning thoughts of Sally toiling away in Dr. Finkelstein's cold laboratory. He was starting to have an idea. Maybe if he couldn't capture Christmas in words, he could take a lesson from Halloween Town's evil doctor and explain the holiday through science. The following day, in his hillside castle, Dr. Finkelstein clutched an ice pack to his aching skullcap. He moaned like a dog poisoning by Atroba belladonna, otherwise known as deadly nightshade, resulting in an intense sensitivity to light and a throbbing headache that forced him to squint painfully behind his dark glasses. He awakened that morning, passed out on his laboratory desk next to the bowl of soup that Sally. Oh, that's Sally. She'd tricked him again. He had called for his assistant Igor to fetch his binoculars so he could search the town from the window for a sign of her. Igor had limped in with the heavy iron lenses, and the doctor had spied down at the ongoings until he finally spotted his ragdoll gardening amid the weeds in the cemetery. Igor had dragged her back, kicking and screaming by her long red hair. Now, scolding, Dr. Finkelstein glowed, glared at Sally as she sat morosely in her cell, which was mostly bare except for a few spare items and a rusty metal cot. "You've poisoned me for the last time, you wretched girl," the doctor growled. Sally sighed and rested her cheeks on her hand. Still clutching the ice pack to his skull, the doctor pushed the heavy door to her cell closed, nodding to himself in satisfaction as the bolts fell down with a heavy thunk. Everything's getting out now, he thought. Oh, try getting out now, he thought. Sally's disobedience was getting out of hand. If Igor hadn't caught her, she might never have returned. Maybe it had been a mistake to make her out of fabric and thread. She was too soft, too tender-hearted. He had thought that by making Sally so opposite, he would have a complimentary companion who excelled at cooking and cleaning and all the domestic things he loathed. And while Sally did make tasty wormswort stew, she was also headstrong, curious, and utterly insolent in her childlike wonder. Next time he'd create a companion closer to his own image. Foreshadowing. The doorbell rang loudly, and Dr. Finkelstein clenched as the bell chimed, reverberated in his aching skull. "Oh, my head," he moaned. He 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 fumbled with his wheelchair controls until he steered himself to the top of the tower's ramp, where he could peer down into the foyer below. "The door is open," he cried, adjusting the ice pack. The castle's wooden door creaked wide to reveal Jack, wearing a freshly starched bat bow tie and clenching a black medical bag in one hand. "Hello, Jack Skellington," Dr. Finkelstein exclaimed. He was always pleased to see Jack, one of the few residents of Halloween Town who demonstrated that they possessed a brain, unlike the ridiculous mayor who couldn't even delegate which face to wear from one moment to the next. "Up here, my boy." Jack marched up the ramp with enthusiasm. "Doctor, I need to borrow some equipment." Dr. Finkelstein beamed. Jack must be up to something good. It had been a long time since anyone had come to him for advice. "Is that so? Whatever for?" "I'm conducting a series of experiments," Jack explained. "How perfectly marvelous." Dr. Finkelstein's wheeled closer to the top of the ramp as Jack climbed the final incline, toting his medical bag. Now here was a strapping young skeleton who understood the value of science, not like that wretched rag doll with her wide-eyed hungry to take in everything at once without the proper procedures and protocols. "Curiosity killed the cat, you know," the doctor warned him. "I know," Jack agreed. "Come on into the lab," the doctor said, pressing his wheelchair controls to spin him around. The ice pack was beginning to clear his head from the nightshade effect, and he was feeling much more himself. "We'll get you all fixed up." As Jack followed the doctor into his laboratory, Sally sat up in her bed in surprise at the familiar voice. What was Jack Skellington doing there?" She pressed herself against the cell door to overhear their conversation. Sally thought aloud. "Experiments?" That is the end of Chapter 9. I do hope you enjoyed it. Please remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, and I will see all of you in the next chapter. Thank you. Have a good day. Goodbye.